Do you think the West will survive in this position? Because the world is catching up technologically. As a matter of fact, the Chinese have surpassed the United States in a whole plethora of things that the United States wants. And they are now the economic engine of the world. They are the manufacturing hub of the world. They have the largest currency reserves in the world. They have some of the largest gold and silver reserves. They've opened up every institutions that counter what was once dominated by the United States and the West. They've countered the IMF. They've countered the World Bank. They've countered the London and New York gold and stock exchanges. They have their own trading bourses. They're now doing, I think, 97% trade with Russia and the yuan and the ruble. They have now started doing more trade with the large trading bloc in the world, which is ASEAN, using the yuan. They're also using the yuan in one of the largest trading blocks in the world, which is in Africa. And they say that Africa is now being positioned as the manufacturing hub for China. The same way the United States moved industry to China, China is doing some of that across Africa. How do you think that this will fare with Europe, which has little to no resources, and the United States, which is now in a debt spiral, the likes of which we've never seen before? And even though it is rich in minerals, to tap the minerals now costs an exorbitant amount of money, which the United States no longer has.
Whole lot of questions there. In an area that I'm not that great on, which is economics, or global economics at least, except in the geopolitical sense of, you asked whether or not the West will survive this political shift from a unipolar hegemony of the United States being on top, mainly because of 1991, the fall of the Soviet Union. It took time for them to get their act together. China, back when I was born, was a peasant society, and now it's a thriving, has a GDP to rival that of the United States. I think as you may have mentioned, surpassed it by now. So will it survive this unipolar hegemony? No, it's already lost that. This is not a unipolar hegemony world anymore. It has different centers of influence and economics. And whether that is good or bad, I don't know. I think it's probably for the best. We cannot discount the global south. You referred to the global south and its rise. These are people. Everything comes down to people. And I almost dislike talking about things in geopolitical terms, is that when it comes down to it, we're all people. And if you travel throughout the world and you meet the people, all they want, doesn't matter where they are, all they really want is to have their family brought up in peace, to be able to thrive and flourish. And unfortunately, a lot of them are embroiled in the machinations of their gangster thugs in power. So I think it's a good thing, basically, that we no longer have a unipolar hegemony, even though you in the United States and we in Canada and the West benefited from being on top. I don't know that we have to be on top. Why can't we just get along, with our friends in the global south? Now, I'll give you a personal example, not for me personally, but for a friend of mine. Here, I live in New Brunswick, the province of New Brunswick in Canada. When the COVID happened and the tyranny happened, he and his wife just up and left. They got on the last plane out of here before they had to have that. I'm mindful of some of the things I have to say because I know where you post your stuff. And they went to Ecuador. It's one of the 3 easiest countries to get in and get a permanent residency or even citizenship later on. Panama being the easiest, then there's Costa Rica, and then Ecuador, I think, if I don't have that mixed up. And they love it there. They are free from all of the nonsense that is going on in this country. This is a godforsaken country. It really is. And if anybody wants to read my real thoughts on this, you can go to my Substack, Robert Vaughan, at Substack, where I posted about a lot of what we've been talking about, Rashim. A lot about how we're products of the milieu that we grow up into, and the culture that we grow up into. But he went down to Ecuador, him and his wife, and I talked to them frequently. As a matter of fact, I just did an interview with them, if people can see that on justrightmedia.org, where they talk about the healthcare down there being far superior than what they left behind in this country. Where they talk, he just posted the other day a Christmas parade, and it was friendly. Right? There was no violence going on, no bollards in the street to stop trucks going in, blowing up the place. A helicopter came overhead and dropped confetti on everybody as they had the floats of the nativity going down the street. And he said, this is wonderful. I can participate or not, it doesn't matter. But I'm not out there trying to destroy it or denigrate the culture that has stood the test of time in this country, a country long older than Canada. So will the West as a collective survive? Yeah, I think we'll survive. We don't have to be on top. We just have to think of ourselves as individuals, as people, as Chinese, as Japanese, as Ecuadorians, as Americans, Canadians, British, German, Russians, Ukrainians, and that we want the same thing, which is peace and to flourish as individuals. At least that's the majority of us want that. And I think we understand through shows like yours and social media that we're being really sold a bill of goods by our politicians. And we have to be critical and really hold their feet to the fire and throw the bums out if they're not following an objective reality where there are objective truths and an objective morality. So, yeah, we'll survive. People, I have great sense of hope for people because we survive. Look at what happened in World War II, the devastation. Japan survived, Tokyo survived, Dresden survived. Well, except for those who killed, they all rebounded as a nation, as a people, and recovered. So yeah, we'll survive.
In closing, as we talk about this, and you brought the question up, why does the United States or the West have to dominate, and why can't we just live amongst as equals amongst others? Well, the United States stated policy, its stated national policy is to prevent any nation or combination of nations from becoming a near peer or peer power at all costs. So if this is the stated policy and the stated goal of the United States, how can they accept without war? How can they accept a multipolar world? Because we see they're burning down the world trying to prevent Russia from reemerging. They're positioning 65% of their warships and weapons to Asia to try to keep China hemmed in the two island chains, and they're trying to position ships and submarines on the Malacca Strait to cut off China's water access for trade or whatever. How, with the mindset of we can exist as equals or one in a world of many poles, how is that possible when the policy and the policy makers have it in their mind that America must dominate at all costs, or else let's just burn the whole thing down?
I think you're probably referring to a neoconservative type of policy, because that kind of policy flies in the face on the foundation of the United States of America. I think Salim even mentioned it when you had him on as your guest. He quoted John Adams. I don't think he was president at the time. I think he was an ambassador or another official capacity. He said that the United States does not go out to seek monsters to destroy. It was not a nation of hegemony or of conquest or of empire. It was a place where people could come and assimilate into a nation where individual rights reigned supreme, not collectivism, not collective rights, not nationalism, and patriotism perhaps, but not nationalism. And so when you say this policy of not allowing any nation or group of nations to become a threat, either militarily or economically, against the United States, that's a shame. And I think that has to change because it is un-American. It flies in the face of your founding fathers.
Thank you so much for joining me on the Red Pill Diaries. We're going to have to get you back on the platform. I really, really appreciate it. And I want you to have a blessed and safe day. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rashim. It's been a pleasure. And thank you for all you do.
And thank you so much, sir. Be blessed.
Thank you. You too.
For everybody who will be watching us later as this airs, I want to take the time out to say, as I often say before we leave, do right by others. Not because there's some material gain or some accolades or some praise or applause to be had. Do right by others because it's the humane and the godly thing to do. Because even when no one else is watching you, remember that God Almighty is watching you. As my late, great, and most beautiful mother would always say, God sits high on the throne of power, but He the actions of men. Know that I love each and every one of you who loves truth, but know the love that I have for you will always pale in comparison to the love that God for you. Until we next speak again, stay strong, stay true, but above all things, remember to stay righteous, because righteousness is the only thing that's going to get you out of here. Hey, mama, your baby boy loves you more than life. Dudes, everybody, thank you all for joining me. We're out of here. Peace.
My first and last mistake. I'm blue without your face. But what can I do? 'Cause I'm just a